Greetings, magnificent souls, to the Lily Bewley podcast, where we have open and honest discussions about ourselves. This is your host, Lily Bewley, and I'm honored to have conversations here with thought leaders, visionaries, healers, and even solo conversations with myself about things I am currently reflecting on. This is a place where we break down, break away, and break through our emotional trauma, allowing ourselves to be healthy, be happy, and live a peaceful life. We are tired of being sick and tired. We are tired, but we are not giving up. We know that there is something magnificent inside of us. And because we are fighting daily, hourly, and by the minute, fighting ourselves, our kids, our spouses, we have to do things differently. We have to break the cycle. We don't have a million chances. We have to be happy now. We have to find a way. So how do we do that? How is that possible? If you look around at what society is telling you, they tell you that what we're doing is impossible. Yet it's happening every single day. And it's happening through the practice and the love that we call awakening the magnificent soul. We are all magnificent souls, and these are our stories of healing. Today in episode 109, I welcome Dr. Valerie Rein to the show to chat about patriarchy, stress disorder. Don't forget to let me know your thoughts about this episode or anything you would like me to cover on future podcasts at epiphanyvault.com. Remember, it is a safe place, and I would welcome the discussion. Also, a request, if you are enjoying the show, please rate and share and review so we can get the word out to more and more souls who want to heal. My guest today, Dr. Valerie Rein, is a psychologist and women's mental health expert who has discovered PSD, Patriarchy Stress Disorder, and created the only science-backed system for helping women achieve their ultimate success, happiness, and fulfillment by healing the intergenerational trauma of oppression. She holds an EDM in psychological counseling from Columbia University and a PhD in psychology from the Institute of Transpersonal Psychology. Her #1 best-selling book, Patriarchy Stress Disorder, has been heralded by reviewers as the most important body of literary work in our modern times, and perhaps the most important book of the century for women. Please enjoy my chat with Dr. Valerie Rein. Dr. Valerie, such a pleasure to have you on the show. I read your book. It is so good. I can't wait to share this with the audience today.
So happy to be here, Lily. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. It's I always, when I read, I always like to say that I crush people's books to get ready for the podcast. #1, because I'm a huge dork and I love books. #2 is I just love all these ideas that I've never really thought of myself, right? And your book is called Patriarchy Stress Disorder. And let's start off with a bang and start off with, what is that?
What is that? What could that be? In the world where women have been oppressed for thousands of years and had no sovereignty, had no rights even over our own bodies. Women didn't own our own bodies. Women didn't own property, couldn't make their own money. Women's labor has been free. Women didn't even have parental rights, legal rights over their own children. So this has been going on for thousands of years now. Things have changed quite a bit, but actually pretty recently. And there are a lot of ways in which women are still experiencing a lot of trauma. And what I mean by trauma, let me just start right there. Any experience that made you feel unsafe, physically or emotionally, and led to creating trauma adaptations to keep you safe. And we can talk more about what the heck those trauma adaptations are. These are ways in which we've learned to keep ourselves safe. That's what I'm going to say for now. So over thousands of years, women have learned to keep themselves safe in an environment where they were not. And those adaptations are genetically transmitted. Trauma is genetically transmitted in those adaptations, as we know from a relatively new science of epigenetics and also neuroscience. So all of these things came together and informed the discovery of patriarchy stress disorder for me, as I recognized that for many, many years, I have been asking the same question. Probably every woman asks, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? How come I know exactly what to do, but I'm not doing this? What's wrong with me? How come I self-sabotage in areas that would lead to me being more empowered financially, in terms of visibility, in terms of my self-care, in terms of my pleasure and freedom? And I hear it from pretty much every woman, regardless of the level of quote unquote success that she's experienced. So yeah, here we are. We have all this opportunity and this conditioning that lives in our system, that lives in that genetic expression, that has the knowledge of thousands of years of oppression and is conditioned to keep us safe, is holding us back from our ultimate success, happiness, and fulfillment, unbeknownst to us. So we're having these conversations, and I wrote this book so that women can realize, oh my gosh, there's nothing wrong with me. I am not the one holding myself back. These are trauma adaptations. These are intergenerational traumas that I may have no conscious knowledge of, but they have been subconsciously driving my choices and how I feel in my own skin. And this is what we're here to unpack.
Yeah, absolutely. That's my lifelong quest.
I hear you. Mine too.
Lifelong quest. And I know the listeners would agree as well. Can you explain this idea of safety?
Yeah.
Because this was completely foreign to me before I started into the deeper healing work, looking at, healing my emotional traumas. And like if I were just like reading something kind of like in a very not woke world, and maybe reading something on Instagram that said be safe, like I don't think it's probably what you're talking about. So I think maybe that would be a good grounding principle to talk about here in this space, because I would agree, like that is essentially what we are here. All these choices and behaviors that we have are really trying to keep us safe. But what does safe mean to you?
What does safe mean? All right. So it's not an idea. First of all, I so love that you asked that question. So just saying to ourselves, I am safe, does not move the needle. Actually, it can backfire, because if we're saying, I am safe, but the system, the nervous system is still activated, and the subconscious does not interpret the situation as safe, it can actually escalate. It can escalate the nervous system response of fight, flight, freeze, dissociation. And that's not what we want. So it's not an idea. It's not what we say to ourselves. It's not what we think. And what is it? It is a whole system response. It's a nervous system response, which is the opposite of stress response, pretty much. It is being relaxed, being comfortable, but not relaxed. I don't mean sitting in front of the TV and eating chips and having some wine. It's not what I mean, because we can be in a situation that signals, oh yeah, I am relaxed, but our nervous system is still wound up. We're not relaxed. And maybe we're watching something that's upsetting, right? And we're putting that wine and those chips or whatever we're munching on top of nervous system activation to try to make ourselves feel better, feel more stable. And so what does it mean to feel safe? It means that, let me give you an example. I actually did not know what it meant until I had that experience. And I'm going to say it was it will sound strange, but it's the first time I consciously experienced safety, and I was already in my mid 20s, you know.
Mhm.
And it happened at the end of a yoga class where I ended up in that final relaxation pose of Savasana, that deep relaxation. It was not my first yoga class, but in this particular one, my body was able to drop in,
Mhm.
and I just felt so deeply at home in my body, so deeply at home, so deeply connected.
Mhm.
Again, not intellectually, but with every fiber of my being, that I was like, whoa, what is that? It was an unfamiliar feeling.
Mhm.
And all I knew was that I wanted more of that. And so I actually went down the path of becoming a yoga instructor and mindfulness teacher. I kept seeking, seeking, seeking. And that path took me to discover trauma healing work that, again, was not in the mind,
Mhm.
was all in the body. And it helped me release traumas from my body, from my nervous system that I had no idea were there. I
Mhm.
never thought I had any trauma at all, in this lifetime, in my own lifetime, or intergenerational. So sometimes it's like when in the medical system they prescribe this drug or this drug to figure out what's wrong with you. If this drug works, it means you have this. If this drug works,
Mhm.
it means you have that. For me, it also started with treatment. And oh my gosh, these trauma healing tools really worked. It means I had trauma. I had no idea.
Mm. Yeah, that is so true. And the the analogy that's coming to me is that, like, back in the days when my nervous system was very activated or, dissociated, I was
Yeah.
dissociating. I was in quote unquote unsafe environments, but they weren't like outwardly unsafe. It was like inside me, I felt safe, unsafe. Does that make sense? So
It
like I
makes
had a
sense.
roof over my head, but my relationships weren't connective. I was disconnected from myself. And so it's hard, kind of hard to describe, I
Hard to
think. Yeah.
describe. I love that inquiry. Yeah. So that's why we're actually encourage people to experience, because it's
Mm,
so hard. Like I would have not never gotten it from reading a book.
mhm.
And I had read a lot of books, like
Yeah.
all the self-help books I could get my
Yes.
hands on.
Yeah.
But it was from an actual experience that I felt, oh my gosh, that's how I learned
Hmm.
that something was there and that I could feel very, very differently. And you're absolutely right. From the outside looking in, my life looked very, very safe,
Hmm.
very safe. Living in the first world country in peaceful time,
Hmm.
um, a roof over my head, food in the fridge, um, car in the driveway, like everything, right?
Yeah.
All the trappings of a good life were there.
Hmm.
And I didn't even realize that inside I was disconnected.
Hmm.
Inside I was not in my body. If somebody would have told me, "Oh, Valerie, you're not in your body," which actually somebody did tell me later on, and I was like, "What do you
Yeah.
mean?
Not ready for that.
What does that even mean?"
Yeah.
And at that moment, I was already around 30. I think that was later. Like, what the heck does that mean? I'm
Hmm.
a yoga teacher. I'm a mindfulness teacher.
Mm. Hmm.
I am a psychotherapist. Like, what do you mean I'm not in my body? I couldn't understand. So that's why, reading a book will be eye opening.
Yes.
And I hope if what we're talking about resonates, you pick up my book. You can
Hmm.
download a free chapter on my website,
Hmm.
drvalerie.com, and dip your toes in.
Hmm.
And what's going to really move the needle is having an experience. That's why we actually
Yes.
have these experiences from time to time. We have events, virtual events, where
Hmm.
women can come and gather, and we guide them through a series of experiences so that they actually have a clear picture of what's going on. And those experiences get them out of the hamster wheel of, oh, what's wrong with me? I need to fix myself. I need to do more, etc. To say, oh my gosh, it's not me at all. It's never been me. And I can shift these things just like that by shifting my internal state and healing the underlying traumas. It takes a little longer, but it starts with all these shifts and then they snowball, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, the willingness and the choice, I would say, to do that. To
Big
even
time.
start down that road.
Willingness and the choice, because it's a commitment. Right now, looking back, I'm saying these were the most important parts of willingness and choice, right? That really shaped my life to be what it is now.
Yeah.
None of what my life is now would have been available to me had I not gotten onto the trauma healing work.
100%.
Right? You're feeling this too in your life. And I'm so passionate about this topic. Just if something in you feels like you are not living the fullest life that you are here to live, you're not being 100% of who you're here to be, not experiencing 100% of what you're here to experience. If your bank account is not reflecting the worth and value of the gifts that you've brought to this world, right? Let's look at concrete metrics. If your relationship is not as fulfilling, or you're not in a relationship because it's been a shit show, and you're like, I don't know if there are partners out there who can meet me. I assure you, there's trauma to heal.
Yes.
I assure you. And that will open doors to everything you desire and what you haven't even dared to desire. My life now is way outside the realm of what I ever dreamed of, because my imagination never stretched as far. I never thought I would be able to have an amazing partnership, an amazing parenting experience, an amazing business, doing the work I love, living, having freedom, having time freedom, financial freedom. That never occurred to me as a possibility. Maybe I could have one, but not all,
Yeah.
But we actually can have it all when we get on this healing journey. And our thrivers, women we work with on this path of unpacking and healing PSD and other invisible traumas, their lives show the same transformation. And that's what I want for every woman. Absolutely. And every human anywhere on across the gender spectrum.
Yeah.
All have traumas. If you're human, you have trauma.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that kind of segues into something else. I wanted to talk with you about that, but I wanted to, this is what I'm hearing. So patriarchy stress disorder is this response to environments. I mean, I think like people call it stuckness, right? I don't know if that's the same, words that you want to use, but it feels like it's like this amalgamation and result of going through a process or a system or a path maybe that wasn't put out for you. And let me just say, this is me. So, I'm just not talking about like this is a subjective conversation because this is about me too. Like checking all the boxes, doing all the things, and then getting to this place of like you said, like, oh, I was doing really well in one area of my life. Like I was making six figures, but I also felt like I was dying on the inside. And then it also sounds like patriarchy stress disorder is that feeling, those emotional traumas like surfacing within that container of doing a lot. And then something else was there too with that too, but like these emotional traumas coming up and then maybe not being healed and then thinking that there's something wrong with us. Is that a pretty good summation?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All these traumas, they accumulate. And also our defenses accumulate, what we've used to survive. And they show up in the mind, body, and actions, or choices and actions. And we can unpack that a little more. But basically, we become this amalgamation of thoughts, experience, behaviors, choices, and feelings that are not authentic. that are not authentically us, that are adaptive to the environment that has been traumatic for countless generations before us. And that's what we inherited. It did not start with us. Did not start with us. There is a study that illustrates that really, it really shows it so in such plain terms. Mice were involved in that study. Sadly, that there is suffering involved. These mice were introduced to the smell of cherry blossoms, and simultaneously their feet were zapped with mild electric shocks. These mice were then bred, and their children and their grandchildren, when exposed to the smell of cherry blossoms, showed a strong fear and anxiety reaction. All right. Now, an experiment with mice strips away this whole human, oh, well, maybe you heard about it. Maybe somebody told you to act this way. Maybe you saw your parents acting this way. These subsequent generations never were exposed to cherry blossoms or to electric shocks. And they didn't see their parents behave around these things in any kind of way. It was a pure genetic transmission through epigenetic expression. And neuroscientists actually saw that they had more receptors to detect specifically the smell of cherry blossoms. Now, it was an isolated experience, one experience, and a pretty mild experience at that, right? If we think about all the experiences, the avalanche of that women have experienced, and frankly, every oppressed group, Black women, women of color, have it in layers of oppression based on racism, the trauma of slavery. There are just so many layers, right? And when we unpack our own lineage, we can see, oh my gosh, yeah, my lineage went through some shit. We all have deprivation, wars, hardships in our lineages. And these adaptations develop to help us survive. But then where they become counterproductive is when nothing actually overtly threatens our safety, but the adaptations are acting as if that were still true.
Yes.
All right. As if it were still true that it's unsafe for a woman to make money. As if it were still true that a woman needs to earn her keep by working for free and working till she drops, because otherwise she is worthless, right? Do we find these patterns showing up in our lives? Well, let's take a look at that schedule of yours. How much time is there for just being, playing, a hobby? And when you engage in these things, do you still feel guilty? Do you still feel unease? Do you still feel maybe even anxious? I hear from so many women, right? That anxiety is that first thing that kicks in the morning. Oh gosh, my to-do list. It's not our fault. It's not our failing. And we cannot think our way out of it. We cannot talk our way out of it. But we can shift, right? Yep. By rewiring our nervous system and reprogramming our subconscious, which we do with the thriving method. That brings together different modalities, a wide range of modalities for trauma healing, and all of them involve mind, body, energy, the whole being. Yeah, thank you.
I love that. Ooh, so good. So let us talk about the trauma adaptations or choices, if we haven't covered that already, because I think I knew this, coming in, and this is affirming for me because I had a feeling that we were kind of on the same level with the behaviors and choices that we make. I think one of my biggest issues with the personal development world is that it's all, there's a lot of attribution for our behaviors or our choices based on our thoughts or our mindset.
Yes.
And I've been, blessed with a teacher and a mentor who
Mhm.
has taught me, and this has been valid with my healing in my life,
Yes.
that my behaviors and choices are actually stemming from our root cause, emotional trauma that is there. And I'm assuming that that's where you're coming from as well. And so
Yes.
I'd love to talk more about that, and what's important about that. Like, what do we need to know,
Mm.
and what's missed out on, I think, maybe right
Oh,
now
yeah.
in that world.
Oh, yeah. I'm so
That's so
glad you
good, right?
asked. Ah, so good. Yeah, again, women are tasked with Sisyphus labor of pushing that huge boulder up the hill every day. Let's do mindset work. Let's work with those thoughts. Let's work with those thoughts. And guess what? Those thoughts come back every day. Let's work with these thoughts. And it's hard. It's hard work, and it's not effective. It's effective to a degree.
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, of course, it's good to know your thoughts. It's good to know that your thoughts are not facts, to be able to shift the way you think. But ultimately, it works about as well as what we see on the cover of diet magazines
Mm.
showing eat this, not this.
Hmm.
And we have yogurt and ice cream or candy and fruit. Great. Everything is fixed in my life. Now I
Hmm.
know what to eat.
Hmm.
This, not this. So simple. Where have you been all my life?
Stop seeing me so much, Dr. Valerie.
Well, yeah, maybe it works for me for a couple of days,
Mhm.
but then I get emotionally activated and I go, fuck it, give me that ice cream with
Mhm.
candy on top. You
Mhm.
know, because ultimately, what drives the bus is not the conscious mind. And this is a key discovery of neuroscience, which I'm surprised that not everybody is talking about all
Yeah,
the time.
for real.
The key discovery is that our actions are decided in our subconscious. Our actions are decided in our
Mhm.
subconscious. The conscious mind is step two. There's probably more steps in between, tiny, whatever. I'm just going to simplify it. The conscious mind is the last one on this bus that
Mhm.
hops on. The bus is already going. And it's like, what did I miss? What are we doing? Oh, we're doing this. Well, let me write a story about this. Oh, this
Mhm.
is why we're choosing this and not that. This is why I'm eating ice cream right now. It's because I've had a hard day and I need to
Mhm.
reward myself, or because I've decided that I am a loser and I don't deserve anything better. Like, whatever the story is,
Mhm.
it's so irrelevant. Now, is it helpful to work with thoughts and go with the better story? Of course. It relieves suffering. But is it the root cause? No,
Mhm.
it is
100%.
not the root cause. Is it the most effective way of working? No. When we work with the root cause, which is in our nervous system, which is in our subconscious, then everything that grows from that root is different, is
Mhm.
healthier, right?
Mhm.
Heal at the root, and you have healthy branches, healthy leaves, healthy flower, healthy fruit, as opposed to, attending to
Mhm.
everything at a time, one at a time. And interestingly, all these branches of money, wellness, mental health, physical health, relationships, parenting. If you're a business owner, your team, the health of your business, your visibility, your bottom line, everything grows from that same root. And
Mhm.
that root is safety. That
Mhm.
root is, yeah, being able to express ourselves fully, authentically, unapologetically, and then we can choose whatever story you want to go with, but it's fun. It's for fun. It's not because it defines who you are or dictates your
Mhm.
behavior.
Yes.
So that's how I've kind of come to relate to mindset
Mhm.
work. It's cherry on top. Sure, we can do that,
Yeah.
but don't mistake the finger pointing at the moon for the moon.
Mm. And is that what you mean by trauma adaptations, or like the choices and behaviors that we have?
Yeah. All right. So let's unpack that a little bit. Trauma adaptations are, chances are, everything you've ever tried to fix in yourself is a trauma adaptation.
Okay.
Chances are, let me make that bold statement and let's see if that checks out. For example, our thoughts that are self-defeating, that harsh inner critic, the imposter syndrome. I remember interviewing Marie Forleo for my podcast, and Marie Forleo is a prominent business owner, a philanthropist. And she was sharing that her inner critic is harsh and vicious at times.
Yeah. My judgy Lily is, oof. She's so judgy.
Judgy Lily. And that's a trauma adaptation. Oh, why? Why, Dr. Valerie, is that a trauma adaptation? It hurts. It's not pleasant. Well, look at it through the lens of PSD. It's never been safe for a woman to shine her light in the world. Women who were visible, women who were powerful were punished. They were burned at the stake. They were exiled. They were labeled all sorts of horrible things. They were outcast, divorced from means of providing for themselves. Well, it was a horrible fate, right? Or being a spinster was a horrible fate too. All these horrible fates that met women who were visible, outspoken, powerful. So our system goes, oh no, she's about to step in the spotlight. Let's dissuade her. Let's put the brakes on that because that is dangerous, right? So the inner critic is pretty effective for that, the imposter syndrome, and all sorts of thoughts that just create such an emotional drain for us, such an energy drain. You know how you just sometimes think about your to-do list and you're already tired. Well, that's effective in you not moving forward into more power, visibility, money, etc. So the system is doing its job. These adaptations also show up in the body as anxiety responses, depression responses. And I'm not using these words as a clinical diagnosis, but rather to describe that energy spiral that goes up, 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 and you're spinning in your head and your thoughts, and you have this nervous system activation, that restlessness, right? Sometimes, people call it ADD, ADHD. Again, not using these terms as a clinical diagnosis. I'm not going to get into those jungle right now, but to describe this is a symptom picture, right? For example, I have this important proposal to write. It's a big opportunity for me. Let's say it's a speaking gig. I'm going to be in front of thousands of people. And all of a sudden, I notice that I move from there to, doing my social media research.
Yeah. Oh my God, this is me today. Oh,
right.
Yes.
Right on the money, Lily. And that because what happened between point A and point B was that my nervous system got activated. I got anxious. Or maybe I went into freeze and super and dissociation. And maybe I find myself doing social media research. Maybe I find myself in front of the freezer with Haagen-Dazs in one hand and a big spoon in the other. Doesn't matter. The adaptation is there to remind you, oh, wait, something is there. That is an opportunity for me to step into my power. And so is the adaptation. It signals, it's like that golden flag that signals, dig here, there's gold.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Right?
Yes.
If we were to reframe all these things that we're blaming ourselves for and shaming ourselves for, I can't believe I don't have the willpower not to do X, Y, and Z. And instead looking at it with so much compassion, here I am doing X, Y, and Z. That means there's an opportunity.
Yes.
Right? And for that, we do need the tools to rewire the nervous system, to retrain the subconscious so that we can actually do it, because it's easier said than done. So mind, body, and actions, choices, right? I mean, and the stories don't actually reflect what's going on. Like, for example, I hear from women who, let's say she would like to have a relationship, but she's not putting herself out there because well, I need to lose 15 pounds first.
Yes.
Somehow weight is very relevant right now. We've been through
Mm-hmm.
COVID. Most of us, myself included, have put on a few pounds.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So it's very relevant. And so these stories are very relevant. I'm not going to do it until I lose weight. Okay. So that's the story. And then she loses weight. And then does she do it? Uh, um, Maybe there's another story that comes up.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe she does not release the weight because it's a safety mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
Because as long as that persists, like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it until I release the weight,
Mm-hmm.
but I still haven't done it. Well, maybe in the next quarter,
Yeah.
etc. So you see how it like self perpetuates those safety mechanisms that on the one hand keep us safe from what's not even a threat, but our nervous system and subconscious interpret it as a threat.
Mm-hmm.
And they are the ones in charge. On the one hand, that's happening. And on the other hand, these same mechanisms that are meant to keep us safe are causing so much suffering. So much suffering. We're
Mm-hmm.
shaming ourselves, blaming ourselves. We're not achieving, we're not having experiences that we'd like to have. And if we're achieving, we're not enjoying it because success is a moving target. Oh, okay, I achieved that. What's next? I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. And that too comes from PSD. That too is that intergenerational trauma. Does that resonate, Lily?
Oh my gosh, yeah, everything. Yeah, so many things. Like I work in dating right now, and I have a very
Yeah.
similar, and I'm newer to the game than you are, but I have a very similar outlook basically as it comes from the root. Like dating, it's like, well, I, sleep with men on the second date, but I really don't want to, or, these choices and these behaviors,
Yeah.
and the inner critic, all the stuff that you just said, it just so resonant. And I'm always like, let's go to Trigger Town so we can figure out exactly what's
Take
wrong.
it down. It's very densely populated, that trigger town, for all of us. And it's fun to meet them. It's fun to meet them. Actually, in our approach, we never try to get rid of the adaptation. We never
Yes.
attack like, well, you gotta stop doing this shit. And
Mhm. Yes, that's the
no,
biggest misconception.
right?
The
Because
biggest misconception.
it just keeps us stuck further. And if we try to push on willpower, that is a very limited resource, and we'll revert to those things because the subconscious is stronger. It will
Mhm.
always win. Subconscious always wins. So
Mhm.
instead, we work with our biology,
Yeah.
with our wiring directly. We ally with them, we partner with them, with those
Yeah,
triggers, with those
absolutely.
adaptations, right? We go there to actually heal the root cause.
Exactly.
And that's when everything becomes possible beyond our wildest dreams. And it's exciting. It's just
It really is.
possibilities that we didn't know existed,
Yeah,
because
this is
everything
all,
has to be hard, right?
yeah, it's relatively new information, right? Like in the last like 5 to 10 years, something like that, with
It
Dr. Vanderkolk coming out with his
it
book.
is new. Yeah, trauma work that is rooted in the nervous system,
Yeah.
and epigenetics, the evidence of genetic intergenerational transmission of trauma is new. All these studies that keep coming out, new studies, we need to like um I know I need to dive into some new ones that I just heard about that are
Yeah,
completely
same.
fascinated, that just bring home the same point, just make it less and less deniable. It's just
Yeah.
so undeniable that it's not you, it's trauma. And also there is evidence that's also undeniable that not only trauma is genetically transmitted, but also is healing. You heal yourself, you heal everybody around you. You
Exactly.
get on that healing journey, right?
That's what I was going to say. It's like science is finally catching up with like what the indigenous tribes knew like thousands and tens of thousands of years ago. It's finally catching up, and hopefully becoming
Yeah.
mainstream.
And it gives me chills, right? That
Mhm.
indigenous saying about 7 generations, thinking about 7 generations before and after, that all your actions at present affect,
Mhm.
there are these effects.
Mhm.
And so it's time that we begin to treat our lives seriously.
Mhm.
Not, and I don't mean work harder. No, we know how to do that. but treat yourself seriously as a creator of your life. And it doesn't just mean making vision boards. I love vision boards, but again, there is that missing piece. It's not enough to make a vision board. Your nervous system and your subconscious have to be a full yes to what's on your vision board. Because if they're not a full yes, they're going to drive the bus in a direction that's different from what you consciously, and desire, right? So we just need to bring it all together. We need to put that missing link in place. And then the ROI on everything that we've already studied and we've done, we've invested in our business training, our education, our desires, our passions, it all begins to come together with ease, with fun. And it's a different experience, right? Yeah. So that's what I live and breathe for.
Me too. Oh, me too. Well, as we're closing up this nice little container we created, it's been amazing. I don't know, with the time we have left, whether you'd like to talk about the method that you're talking about. And I know that you have a really great class or event coming up too, that I'm sure would be valuable for some of our listeners as well. I'd love to give you that space and time to do that too.
Yeah, thank you so much. I can touch on both a little bit. As I mentioned before, it's important to have an experience. Yes, it's an eye-opening conversation. You get some good ideas. Don't let it stay at the level of an idea. Please, please, please. It's another trauma adaptation. I call them prison guards in my system because they're so effective at keeping us locked up in this invisible, in the prison of perceived safety. So ideas, I'm just going to read another book. I'm going to do that. But is your life dramatically different? No. Is your life going to be dramatically different after listening to this interview? Well, surprise me. Like, I would be thrilled to hear from you. Yeah, it would be amazing. And I would really want to know what it is that that enabled that to happen. So please send me an email and share with me or DM me on Instagram at Dr. Valerie Rein. I love DMs, by the way. It's a great way to reach me. Anyway, coming back to what it is that the experience can give you. It can give you a very direct transformation outside the stories, outside this hard work of pushing the boulder up the hill. And we have a phenomenal opportunity coming up, actually, as I've heard, probably the next day after this interview airs. So I don't know when you're listening to it. And if you're midway through this experience, you can probably join us still, because it's for 3 days, April 21st through the 23rd. And if you missed that one, I'm sure we'll have another one down the line. But jump in if you have an opportunity now. So we're making it super affordable. It's going to be well worth it. And what it's about, it's women coming together, high achieving women, primarily business owners or those who are aspiring to put their work in the world out there. And it's a very different experience being witnessed in a state, there's nothing wrong with me. It actually sinks in. It actually becomes who you are. You emerge from there feeling in your cells that there's nothing wrong with you. And you will emerge with concrete strategies for how to get out of the invisible in the prison in the areas of money, in the area of relationships. Well, since this is a workshop primarily focusing on women business owners, we are using the lens of business, right? So we're talking about team, we're talking about relationship with your customers, but it's the same thing with your relationships at home. Everything transforms, right? Your social relationships. And finally, the perennial favorite that we're going to address is the question of, I know what to do, but I'm not doing it. What the fuck is wrong with me? We are going to get to the bottom of that, and you're going to emerge with strategies. You're going to emerge changed. right? So it's called the Thriving Experience. The
Mm-hmm.
thrivingexperience.com is where you can get all the info and register. And I hope you join us. And there you will also be exposed to the thriving method, how we do it, what we do. It's not going to be a lecture, it's going to be experiential. So in the thriving method, first stage is we wake up in prison. So this is kind of what we're attempting to do right now in this conversation, pointing in different areas and saying, hey, it's not you. This is how trauma adaptations are showing up. And this waking up takes time. There are so many layers, and it's done best in a community. That's why we're gathering in a community, because everybody brings an aspect of their story, and it's like collective acupuncture. Then everybody else goes, oh, yeah, me too. Haven't thought about that, right? And once we are waking up, then we get to meet our prison guards. And that's a very pivotal moment, or as you put it, visiting that trigger town, right? I love that. We meet them, we get to understand how they operate and what they're protecting us from. And then we end the war with them. We end that internal struggle. And we used the tools for rewiring the nervous system. Many of these tools we'll be teaching at the Thriving Experience. And that prepares us to evolve the prison guards to bodyguards. So instead of getting in our way, they actually, the same protective mechanisms keep us safe on our journey that we've consciously designed. Isn't that amazing? I just love that so much, because every time I have evidence of that in my life, our thrivers have evidence of that in their lives, and our thrivers have experiences like coming into the program wondering, how come I have so much knowledge, so much wisdom? I've studied this for so long. Why am I stuck at this level of revenue? And that is just it. And then going in a few months, one of our thrivers, for example, she just blows my mind. She doubled her revenue 4 times in the course of the program. My math is not that quick, but is it like 16x, 18? I don't know, but it's very impressive. And each doubling resulted from a profound internal shift into safety and into which she could unfold her authenticity. We did not teach her a different business strategy. She did not need that. She needed to show up fully and own who she was. And that brought the value that she was delivering multifold, right? That also multiplied it, and her revenue and her free time and her ability to have fun with her kids and with her family. Because, when we have all these triggers there, we're reactive. We're, right? I mean, we have tense situations, or just, and sometimes it shows up like in the bedroom. We just can't get aroused or get an orgasm, even if it gets to that point. And so it's really, we can have it all. We just need to attend to the root cause. So, and there are more stages to the journey, right? After we evolve the prison guards to bodyguards, and we tunnel out, we dig deeper into the layers of intergenerational, collective, personal traumas, and then we finally emerge and we savor freedom on the outside. And that's an exciting phase where we literally evolve our nervous system, evolve to run, I want to say, greater voltage, if I may say so, of more money, more visibility, more intimacy, more, without burning out, without going to self-sabotage, the upper limit problem, right? Again, addressing that at the root cause. So if this is resonating, I hope you, don't leave it at the level of, oh, that was an interesting conversation. Please do something right here, right now. Either, go to drvalerie.com/book, download that first chapter. That's like the minimal commitment, no money involved. And if you're like, yeah, I want to actually experience this, join us for the experience. And yeah, you will not regret it. It will be, your life will be before and after as a distinct pivotal moment.
Yes.
I hope to get to play with you.
Sounds so nourishing, just even you talking about it. So I can only
imagine. Yeah, we love it. And I emerge changed after each time we teach it. And I teach it with my husband, with whom we have been, on this healing journey and doing this work for years. Right.
I love that. Well, thank you, Dr. Valerie. It's such a pleasure connecting in this space with you. I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Lily, for the brilliant work that you do in the world and how brilliantly you show up. So appreciate you having me as a guest today. Thank you.
And also for the listeners, I forgot to say this, I'll link everything up in the show notes so you can make sure you do at least your lowest action item, which is get the book or get the chapter of the book. So thank you again.
Yeah, thank you so much.
My pleasure. What a great chat with Dr. Valerie Rein. She is such an amazing human being, and we aligned on so many of our values and the healing that we've done. And this conversation really is so important for us as women and as a society. I think it helps us feel like that we are not alone when we don't feel like that we're fulfilled, or we have to choose between love or business, or we have to choose between kids or love or what have you. One of the biggest lessons that I've learned, and I think Dr. Valerie Rein really, we talked about this, is that it doesn't have to be either or. And I posted about this the other day. It's a both and situation. And I think that we are so used to sacrificing ourselves, our needs, and our wants that we're kind of narrowed into this this hole or this path that we can actually veer off of, and we can actually have more than what we think that we can. And that's a whole issue that Dr. Valerie Rein seeks to heal and seeks to have a conversation about. And the good thing is, and I say this a lot, is there's always a better way, always. And Dr. Rein is showing us a way to have that fulfilling life, that fulfilling freedom. I wanted to give you one announcement before we close today. If you are looking to move from single and struggling to epic love in 5 months, the program that's out right now for me is the Magnetized Epic Love 5-month spring reset. So let's get that summer loving on. It's now open for enrollment, and it does have a few spaces available. I'm going to ask you, if it's something that you're interested in, you want more information, just come on over to Instagram and DM me, and I'll be happy to send you the details. And I really just want to thank you. I want to thank you for being here. I want to tell you that I love you. I support you. You are amazing. You are perfect, and you are just right where you need to be. I love you. See you next time.